Hi everyone, Tasha here. Not that you're expecting anybody else. This time round I've decided, because the UK have decided to go through another bloody change, I'm going to do this first part almost as if it was a podcast. It probably is a podcast, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to take each of the entries and I'm going to do a usual reaction video to them, which will feature separately. And then maybe from there I might do a top 6 ranking, regardless, or I could just post it on Twitter or whatever. So this podcast, basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how the selection actually works usually, because quite frankly a lot of people probably have never seen it before or probably have no idea what the heck is going on. And then I'm going to talk about what the new changes are that are in place this year, and then maybe I'll talk a little bit about each of the songs and roughly what's going on. So basically, this You Decide format has been around now since 2016. The idea is that Mel Gederich hosts it, and since 2018, she's been joined with she's been co-hosting it with Semelo, who won Eurovision back in 2015. He's pretty much ditched Sweden for us now, so anyway, he's back this year, and so on. Usually in this competition we have 6 candidates with 6 different songs. 9 times out of 10 they come from reality shows, such as The Voice or X Factor or stuff like that, and very rarely do we have one outside of that. I think Siri last year was an utter gem because she had not come from that area and instead had been a backup vocalist for Belgium twice. So we had a bit of a variety last year in comparison, but usually we get people from talent shows. Before any Brit says, "Oh, we don't bother getting any credible artists. We only go for amateurs, or we only go for talent show rejects or talent show winners or whatever." Guess what? So does the rest of Europe. We're only doing what everybody else does. Mini rant there. So yeah, usually we get six individuals competing, and one of them wins, and they go to said host city to Eurovision. And when I say somebody wins, it's literally unlike every other national final where they actually do get a scoreboard. We don't get a scoreboard. We've never had a scoreboard to a point where what happens is they just go, "Oh, and the winner is, I don't know, song number 3 or something." So I'm just gonna close my door for a second. And then even afterwards, they don't actually put up online who came second, third, fourth, what percentage of the vote it was. So we don't have a bloody clue how everyone else has done. And to this day, we still don't know how everybody else did. Because the BBC are too bloody lazy enough to actually come up with the scoreboard in the first place. But if anyone's wondering exactly how the voting is supposed to work, it's a 50-50 thing. We have a professional jury made up of people that we've never heard of, so very obscure people, and also the rest of it comes down to the televoters. But honestly, because we don't have a scoreboard, nobody actually knows, who voted for who or whatnot. And I think it's a bullshitty idea, but it just happens to be the case. It's a very conceptual thing in the UK. We don't have a scoreboard for anything. X Factor, for instance, The Voice, Strictly, they just say, what's it? Oh, and safe and through to the next round is so and so. Nobody knows how many people voted for who. So, bit of a shitty thing, but we're kind of used to it. Also on hand, you get 3 people who represent your expert panel. And yes, I just did air quotes. So the expert panel is kind of like 3 individuals that no one really cares about. They are somehow professionals, but they don't actually know Eurovision and how it works. And I'm putting it as nice as possible because literally they are completely clueless. They probably don't watch Eurovision, they don't care for Eurovision, but they're getting paid, so why not? If they can earn a couple of extra quid, then they'll take it. I must say that last year was a little bit of a curveball though, because Ryan Clark Neal was on hand as one of the experts. Now, for once, we actually had an expert. Okay, so yes, he's never been to Eurovision, and yes, it's not exactly. He went to the X Factor a couple of years back. He made the live shows, but don't ask me how he did because I don't remember. But I don't think he did very well. But outside of that, he um, he's a very big Eurovision nerd, and so when he was given his insight to each performer last year, it made sense. He literally gave them the best insight, and then after the show, because Mel had other commitments, she couldn't. She couldn't be on hand to do the semi-finals commentary, and he stepped in for her along with Scott Mills, and he was really good. And that so I did like his input towards it. So I do hope he's back this year. Outside of that, usually it's hosted on BBC Two, which for those of you who don't know what how all the BBC channels work, because trust me, there are a million of them. BBC Two is kind of like the sister channel to BBC One, and not many people watch BBC Two in comparison, which is probably why it's thrown on there in the first place. Because in the eyes of the BBC, A, no one gives a shit about the selection, and B, no one gives a shit about the semis, but we have to broadcast them as part of the right to enter Eurovision. So they just chuck them on there, thinking that no one actually cares, no one gives a shit. But that's not necessarily true, because the BBC are totally blind, because they don't actually know that the UK has a good following of Eurovision and a pretty big Eurofan community, of which myself, of course, is a part of it. So on general, that's roughly what happens. So I'm just going to quickly go through the changes to this year. So this year it's going to be hosted in Manchester, in Media City, UK, which is literally where almost everything gets hosted, because they literally have such a huge, big studios. So yes, the UK has decided, well, the BBC has decided that we're going to get a little bit of an upgrade. Instead of performing in Diddy venues, we're now going to get a studio. And unfortunately, it comes with a catch-22. So whilst the venue is a lot better, you've got a bigger stage to work with, so hopefully the performances will be a little bit better than what we've seen. The allocation for the tickets was really dodgy. So what they did was they said, oh well, we're hosting this, the tickets are gonna be allocated based on a ballot draw. So you could apply for tickets, you could apply up to 4, you could apply for 4 tickets at most, and then you'd get an email from the the ticket organisers to say whether yes, you had been chosen out of the box, and you could have a you got tickets, or they'd send you an email bit like what I got, saying that, oh no, unfortunately you weren't chosen, but you know, if somebody cancels, it's there, basically. You could potentially go. Which is a bit dodgy, really, because you couldn't buy the tickets like a normal show. So, for instance, I got my email yesterday saying that, oh, by the way, you weren't selected, and a bunch of other people also got their email yesterday. And to my knowledge of the people I'm aware of, there's only one person I know, okay, I don't exactly know them, but I'm aware of, who actually did get a ticket. So, who got them is unknown to me. But if you are listening to this and you did get a ticket, just give us a shout out, just so I'm aware of who got what. Because a lot of people I know never received anything. So yeah, really, really as dodgy because, I mean, we're at the end of January now. The show is in early Feb. How exactly are you supposed to book time off work? How on earth are you supposed to, you know, drive up on I don't know, commutes there on a Friday night, try and find somewhere to stay overnight, and then come back in the morning? That's if you don't drive. And even then, if you are driving, it's not exactly easy, especially if you're working the morning after. So the way the tickets were released was really shit. But yeah. So Mars and Mel are back, as I previously mentioned, to host this contest. So now I'm just going to move on to the most important part of this podcast, and it's the way the songs have changed. So previously, beforehand, we had 6 artists with 6 songs. And this year they've decided to whittle those songs down to 3. Now, the songs were picked through an international jury who were on hand to help us whittle it down to 3. Now, reports are saying that we had over 700 submissions. So, all I'm saying is, based on the 3 songs that we've been given, because they're not exactly the greatest, what were the other 697 songs like? And how many of them were genuinely better than the 3 we've got? Because, again, the BBC really don't give a shit. And they do us dirty, big time. If anyone who's listening to who's listening to this and they're from the UK themselves, they all know firsthand that they literally don't give a absolute monkeys about it. So these 3 songs are given to 2 artists, respectively. The style is different for each artist, and what happens is they're going to perform their version on the night, and then these expert juror panel people, they're going to decide amongst themselves of the 2 singers whose version and performance and everything was better than the other one, and whoever wins goes through to this Semifinal. Whoever loses, well, bye-bye. On your bike you go. So then we've got these 6 people, they're going to be whittled down to 3, and then the public vote from there is going to be opened, and they're going to decide of those 3 who's going to Tel Aviv. Which, to be fair, is a little bit shitty because the songs aren't great, and I suppose you can make the song sound less crap, but I can't argue that the songs are not fantastic, because I mean we have the lowest expectations here in the UK of what we're gonna get, because we know that we've not really had a good song in a very long time. But at the end of the day, we always think of one thing: it's how they perform it, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to get a revamp afterwards. So we have to think of it like that. And maybe we might just get out of the bottom 5, if not the bottom 10. I mean, Lucy's song in 2017, okay, wasn't exactly the greatest song, but we got outside the bottom 10. Only just, but it still counts. And we got top 10 with juries, so we'll take that and run with the money. So now I'm just going to quickly go over each of the 3 songs and their artists and go from there. So, well, this first song is called Bigger Than Us. They've literally, BBC have consulted Scandinavia over these three songs, and they needed help. So, probably the most notable person out of this songwriting squad for this first song is Lunik. And if you don't know who he is, he competed in Melodifestivalen last year, which is a huge festival. It's been going on for years, and they use this show to decide who's going to represent Sweden. And literally everyone who competes, and that 9 times out of 10 has a pretty good solid hit out of it. Especially when it comes to the final, because the final can be brutal. Yes, in the last couple of years it's not been as great, and I can't say too much because last year was the first time I watched it fully all the way through. But the songs are still pretty good regardless. And then just to give you a heads up, this year's Melody Festival looks brutal. Anyway, back to Jord. So he was there last year. He had a song called My Turn, and I believe he finished third in the final. So pretty good. He's given us a hand this year and helped to write the song. The two performers, one's called Holly Tandy. She was in the X Factor in 2017. She made the live shows, but she didn't win, and I don't remember her being in the final. But I think she sort of finished. She did all right, but you get the idea. So she was in that, and then the other performer is called Michael Rice. He was on a show called All Together Now, which was oddly enough hosted in the same venue with, and I believe the same studio where they hosted when they're hosting this year's selection. So he probably might be the most comfortable in terms of performing in that venue because he's used to it. So anyway, he won this show called All Together Now, and he's got a song. He's competing against Holly. I'm not going to go into detail what the songs are like, what the styles are like. I'm just going to leave that for the reaction video and go from there. So the second song is called Freaks. So the two artists going up against each other, which arguably the song is the worst of the three. We have a girl group called Made. Again, never heard of them, no idea what they do, don't know how long they've been going for. And they're up against this lad called Jordan Clark. Again, no idea about his background, could be, I don't know, just out of school or something. No ideas. So yeah, that's song 2 in a nutshell. Final song is called Sweet Lies. And the Anissa, again, no idea her background or anything. She's going to be going up against Carrie Ann. Now, up until this morning, I didn't have a clue about any of her background, but apparently she was also on the X Factor back in 2015, but she never made live shows and only got as far as the judges' houses. But from what I've heard, she's a pretty good performer, so who knows? And looking at the songwriting team, they've gone back to Scandinavia, they've consulted a bunch of Danes, and of the three songwriters, I'd say the two most notable would be Lisa Cabell. She was behind Emily DeForest's winning song in 2013, Only Teardrops. And the other one is Ebsten Svana, who was the original drummer from A Friend in London, and they competed for Denmark in Eurovision 2011 with the song New Tomorrow, and they came fifth. So they're pretty notable, but what their songwriting abilities outside of that are like, I don't know. But they're on board with this team and they're writing this song. So yeah, it's just kind of going to be like a duel, really. They're just going to go against each other, and the expert panel are just going to go, right, song A wins. they're all gonna then go against the other two who won their duels, and the public are just gonna choose the winner. So I think I've gone through the basics of how this thing is supposed to work, because to be fair, in terms of what's actually happening on the night, we haven't got a bloody clue. We don't know what's going on. This is all we know. And it kind of really, really does my head in, because it's just the general attitude. I mean, Europe are just kind of like, look, at the end of the day, you people in the UK, you fully well know that you can't expect to win because your songs aren't great. The UK Eurofans are kind of like, we know. The problem is that because the negativity in this country is so up to our heads, nothing's going to change. And whether that's just down to the people who work behind the thing, which I don't think honestly they help, the organisers behind it. Even if we change teams all the time, we need some fresh faces in there and some more people who care about the contest. To be honest, we need a scoreboard. We need a proper transparency, because we lack that, and it really does annoy me. Because for all we know, the producers could choose the winner, and we don't know whether that's actually true or not. So there's no transparency. That does my head in. But first and foremost, it's just the general public that really did my head in, because they still see the show as a big joke fest. They think that, well, we send great songs and we should win, even though they don't know what exactly every other country has sent, and we don't put the effort in. So other countries with a lot less money, who really do try each year, and yes, it may go a bit pear-shaped for them, but they still try, and it really annoys me, because we get automatic. We get to automatically go to the final, even though we put the least amount of effort in of pretty much every country. So sometimes it makes me wonder, could we go into the semis? But if then we would draw, we don't pay so much money, and the contest literally wouldn't be what it is. So we're stuck in this horrible predicament. I'm gonna wrap this one up. If there's anything that new that comes up, because we don't exactly know how the night is actually going to work, this is all we know. I'll probably mention it in due course, but stay tuned for my reaction video. Trust me, there will probably be a lot of ranting on that. And dear Europe, you're welcome to criticise the crap out of us. So yeah. So feel free to like this video. I don't know, leave a comment, because I love having a discussion with people over this, because I do it enough with the locals. And also feel free to subscribe as well. Literally, my page is basically Eurovision related stuff, so I go through all the different national finals. I do reactions to each winner's entry, and I also do tops eventually once we get enough songs. Once we get 10 songs in, then I'll start doing that, but because it's pointless doing it for every winner. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back soon.